Hi there, my name is Marley. I hope you guys are doing well and welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'm doing another rendition of the trend of if you like this book, you should read this book recommendations. So I've done this once before, so I'll put a link to that video in the description if you want to check that out first. But basically I just came up with a bunch of book recommendations that have crossed my mind when I was reading a book. It reminded me of a different book, just a different way to kind of give book recommendations to you guys. So let's get started. First of all, I have for fans of the Percy Jackson series, or really any of Rick Riordan series, but mostly Percy Jackson, I would recommend the Nick Chronicles series, or Chronicles of Nick, I always get that messed up, by Sherilyn Kenyon. These are both YA fantasy series following male main characters. Even the covers are kind of giving similar vibes actually. A male blue/black cover not showing their face. Anyways, if you're not familiar, Percy Jackson is about a boy named Percy Jackson who's a demigod, and it's based in Greek mythology, and he goes on adventures and meets like monsters along the way that he has to defeat, has cute little friendships along the way. It's very funny. I think I read these maybe around the same time, and so I sort of compare them in my head and would recommend this for fans of that series because this also follows a young male character with a really sweet relationship with his mom, just like Percy. But Nick basically has this dark kind of prophecy that he's going to become evil one day. So I think his future self like comes back in time to make sure that he doesn't actually become evil. So he's trying to not fulfill that prophecy and like stay a good person, but he gets wrapped up in like all these supernatural stuff. Like there are, I think, like demon hunters in this. It's been a while since I read this now. Yeah, there's immortal vampire slayers. I know that there's demons, and there's basically just a whole bunch of other creatures. And so it's similar to Percy where he's just trying to get through his life, but there's all this like chaos surrounding him. He has a love interest. He has all these little friends. And I don't know if I'm getting it across very well, but it's just very similar vibes. And this is a pretty long series, so buckle in. But if you are familiar with Rick Riordan series, you're probably familiar with reading a lot of books. So that's the first pairing here. And obviously if you are more familiar with this book, then I would recommend, if you're a fan of this series, to read the Percy Jackson series. All of these recommendations kind of go either way, obviously. All right, the next one is for if you're a fan of the Chronicles of Narnia. Again, that's a little bit of a throwback one. I read that when I was a kid, and I'm sure you're all familiar with that. It's about like these kids that go to this other dimension, basically, this other world, and there's kings and queens and all these different kind of fantastical creatures that they come across, and they're trying to save Narnia from the White Witch, at least in the most popular of those books. For fans of that series, I would recommend Inkheart by Cornelia, and this is a trilogy. So this is about a young girl, Maggie, and her father. Maggie's mother has always been missing throughout her life, but then she finds out that her and her father have this magical talent that when they read out loud, like from a book, it will make the book characters come out of the book, and they can also make real people go inside of the book. So one day they're reading from this book, Inkheart, and all of these fictional characters come out of the book and are kind of wreaking havoc on our world, and they have to save the day. And then, not to spoil, but in later books they do actually go into a book. They kind of switch it. So I just think this gives, again, similar vibes. It's following young people going into different worlds, both very fun. I probably like this series even more. Again, it's been a while since I read it, but not one that people talk about often, so I always like to recommend this one. Next up, I have 3 books that I think are kind of like similar vibes, so I think you guys would probably like them all if you like one of them. I'll just start out with Survive the Night by Riley Sager. Not many people like this book, so I don't know if I should have included this one. This is basically about a girl who goes on a road trip with this stranger she doesn't know because she's like desperate for a ride. So she takes a ride from this stranger, and she has this weird thing where she'll suddenly like think she's seeing like movies. She's kind of like an unreliable narrator, or like has these hallucinations that she thinks are like movies. But basically she's kind of suspecting that the guy who's driving her might be the serial killer that's been on the loose. So she's really really just trying to survive the night while being stuck in a car with this man. So if you like the vibes of this, or maybe if you didn't like this and you want something that's like kind of similar but better, I don't know, I would recommend I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. So the reason I recommend this is that it's again a similar story where it's between two people on a road trip. So it's this couple that's going to visit the guy's parents on like his farm in the middle of nowhere, but it's like a snowy night. It's really just a stream of consciousness of our main character's thoughts. She's thinking she wants to end things with this person. Very creepy, ominous vibes. Really would be quick to read. They're both thrillers, so if you like that. But this was really twisty. It's kind of just like messing with your brain, like you're trying to figure out what's going on, which was really fun to try and figure that out. Another book I think has some similar vibes to these is Night Film. What was her name? Marissa Pessel? Marsha Pessel is the author. This is about a guy who is trying to look into this case of this movie director who creates a lot of creepy kind of horror movies, and his daughter has recently gone missing, I think it is, so he's trying to investigate that, and he thinks maybe there's something ominous going on with this girl's dad and his filmmaking, and that's why she has gone missing. So I kind of recommend that because it has these creepy vibes like the other books, and it also has to do with movies, which Survive the Night also does. Yeah, so that's that one. The next recommendation is for those who enjoyed People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is a friends to lovers romance book about our two main characters who were friends since college, and then they always go on a vacation together every summer. But in present day, they have had some sort of falling out, so I think it's been like a couple years since they went away together, but they decide to finally reconnect and go on another vacation, and then we're getting flashbacks to their previous trips. Just watching them kind of fall in love. It's very cute, very popular. A lot of people like this one. If you like those slow burn friends to lovers vibes, I would recommend Love, Rosie. I know quite a few people are familiar with this movie, but it was also a book for if you haven't seen the movie. It's about these two friends who I think are like childhood friends, and basically it's just like all these things keep happening that are keeping them apart, but they do have this love for each other and this attraction for each other, and it's like their slow burn, really slow burn kind of romance throughout the years. And I believe this was all told through letters between the two of them, or between them with like friends and stuff. So if you're into that kind of setup of a book, that kind of format with letters, I think you'll like this. And if you like that very drawn out romance between friends, similar to People We Meet. The next recommendation is if you like the Inheritance games, which is a very Knives Out energy, and that's what both of these books are going to be. This is a YA mystery about a girl who gets given the inheritance of this billionaire, and she doesn't know why. So she goes to the house, gets wrapped up in the family drama, and along with the billionaire's grandsons, her and them are trying to figure out why she's getting involved in the family, why the grandfather left her all of his billions of dollars. Very fun. But if you thought this was like too young or something for you, then I would recommend Ruth Ware's The Death of Mrs. Westaway. It has a similar premise if you want, again, that Knives Out energy. It's about a main character who's not doing super well financially. I think her mom's like passed away recently. I think she's just like a tarot reader, something like that, like not very lucrative. And then she gets this letter saying that her grandmother, Mrs. Westaway, has passed away, but she knows that's not true. She doesn't have a grandmother, or like her grandmother's already died. So she's like, why am I getting invited? This must have been some sort of mix-up. But she decides to go anyway because she's desperate for cash and thinks she can get some sort of money out of this person's will. She ends up going there and again getting mixed up with the family. This is an adult thriller though, so it gets a little bit darker. It's not as silly or like focused on a love triangle or anything. Ruth Ware is really good at having those creepy vibes in, you know, the mansion with the family. She doesn't know who she can trust with all these family members around. It's pretty decent. Although I think I did guess the twist in this one, but still, it's for the vibes. Next up, I have another multi-book recommendation, and it's for fans of the Hunger Games and Ender's Game. I assume you guys would probably know what both of these are. This is obviously a YA dystopian series about a competition where all these young kids have to fight to the death, and it's basically about our young main character Katniss and her friends overthrowing the government, yada yada yada. Ender's Game is more of like a sci-fi young adult book about this boy named Ender in the future, and he's getting trained for battle essentially. Kind of similar to Hunger Games in that it's like kids being trained to fight, but it's in more of like a sci-fi setting. He's very chosen one vibes. If you like either or both of those books, I think you would like the Red Rising trilogy by Pierce Brown. This is a YA dystopian book like those other ones about our main character who's living on Mars, and he is like in the lowest kind of tier in the society, similar to Katniss and Hunger Games being from District 12, and basically about the uprising that he gets involved with. He kind of goes undercover with the Golds, who are the highest in the society, and sort of tries to take them down from within. There's a lot of war or fighting, sci-fi kind of stuff, but in this first book it's really fun because it is a bunch of kids competing in this kind of school training situation. So the first book was definitely the best in this series, and it definitely gave me similar vibes to Hunger Games and Ender's Game. Next up we have, for fans of Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe, one of my favorite books. This is about two young Mexican-American boys who are figuring out their identities, their relationships, their sexuality. Especially we focus on Aristotle as it's from his point of view. He's dealing with family issues, friendship. It's a young adult contemporary coming of age story. It also has LGBT themes as well. Very, very beautifully written. If you like this, more of a newer book that you would probably like is King and the Dragonflies by Kacen Callender. I think this is technically middle grade, but still for young adults, and it's a contemporary book as well about King, who has recently lost his brother, and so he's dealing with that loss and that grief while also, again, trying to figure himself out, as it is a coming of age kind of thing again. He is trying to figure out his identity and his relationship with another boy and his sexuality, and taking into account his family and stuff like that. So they both deal with some similar themes. So I really think if you like one of these books, you would definitely really enjoy the other one. They're both very beautiful and impactful. Another thriller recommendation, if you liked One by One by Ruth Ware, not that many people did, so this can also be a rec for like if you didn't like this, here's a better version. But this is like a snowy, isolated setting thriller where all these people that are involved in this business go on like a business trip at a ski resort or something, I think. And they get snowed in, but also people are slowly dying off one by one, and so it's a mystery of who the killer is and, you know, why are they killing everyone. That one was pretty good, but one I liked even better and has similar vibes is An Unwanted Guest by Sherry Lapina. This is, again, as you can tell from the cover, a snowy, isolated setting thriller about all these different people who go to this inn, and then they all get snowed in, they lose power, all that kind of stuff, and then a murder happens, and again it's kind of like they're slowly getting killed off and you're trying to guess who the killer is. I want to say there's more points of view in this one than in One by One, so it's like more fun to go between all the different characters. I love Sherry Lapina. She's so good at this trope of like trying to figure out who the killer is, who done it. This is just a really great book. You could probably read it in like one sitting. Highly recommend. More thrillers and more snowy settings. We have The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. Lucy Foley's really good at doing the isolated setting, whodunit, Agatha Christie kind of thing as well. This is about, I think it's a New Year's reunion for all these people who are friends in university, so they have all these kind of interesting relationship dynamics between them, and then we're leading up to a murder. So Lucy Foley does things a little different, where normally there's only one murder instead of a bunch, but we're leading up to this one murder, so we don't know who's gonna get killed and we don't know who the killer is. So you're trying to figure out both at the same time, and this is a snowy setting as well as it's New Year's Eve. But if you liked this book, I think you would like In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, or vice versa. This is about a bachelorette party that goes to this kind of cabin in the middle of the woods, isolated setting again. We're also seeing flash forwards to our main character at the end of the weekend. She has memory loss. She forgot what happened, but she just knows that like someone died, something bad happened. So it's a similar situation where we're leading up to like what happened with all these friends in this isolated setting. What's the history here? What's the drama between them? I really think these have similar vibes, kind of similar covers-ish. Check them out. And then lastly, we have If You Like Caraval by Stephanie Garber. This is a YA fantasy book about these two sisters who enter in this competition called Caraval. It's like a fantastical, magical competition campaign where you win a different prize each time. It's run by this mysterious man named Legend, and they get wrapped up in it because they're trying to escape from their abusive father. So they want to win the money, win the prize, and their freedom, but then the one sister ends up getting kidnapped, and then the other sister finds out she has to win Caraval to save her sister. Anyways, very fun, mysterious, adventurous, also has a good romance plot as well. Just really great book. And if you liked that, if you like those kind of vibes, I'd recommend Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angeles. They're both series as well. This deals with a magician, or a couple magicians. So it's about this girl who has always been like working for this one magician, but she ends up trying to escape, similar to the sisters in Caraval, and she enters this magical competition in order to do so and kind of win some fame, some prestige, some money, whatever it is in this book. There's also a romance thread as well. There's a mysterious figure that she is trying to get away from. Just very fun vibes. I read these at a similar time and I was like, wow, these are like very similar, and I just love these types of books. They're so like whimsical, but I also love how they have like mystery in both of them as well. They're very like ominous, but also deal with very like fun carnival kind of thing. So yeah, definitely recommend this if you liked Caraval. And that's gonna be the end of this recommendation video. Let me know your thoughts and if I've convinced you to pick up any of these books, or if you have any other comps for any of these books I talked about, I would love to know. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you've made it to the end here, I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, be sure to do that as well, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!